was 2006, and I can still remember standing in the threshold of my kitchen in the hallway. I did not have a free hand because one of them was literally filled with pain pills and Xanax, and the other one had the last of some wine from a full bottle that I had opened earlier. I popped all of those pills in my mouth and washed it down with that wine. I didn't really even think about it, to be honest with you. But I did shudder. I don't like wine. And even though I was in a bad headspace at the time, that wine still kind of bit back just because I don't like the taste of it. I had no idea where John was, but it was almost as if I wanted him to save me. When I looked around and I realized that no one saw me take that lethal combination of medicine, I knew that I probably would not wake up the next morning. And I was okay with that. When I did wake up the next morning, I was mad at first. And then I realized that my life had been spared for a reason. If you're listening to this, you are one of those reasons.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Wednesdays with Watson. If you've been following the podcasts, by now you know that my name is Amy Watson, and I am your host. As always, I am so grateful that you have taken the time to spend with us as we delve into this subject of post-traumatic stress disorder. We began this season, PTSD, Jesus and Me, with my goal being to tell you my story, and really I wanted to tell it to you in past tense. But a lot of what you're going to hear on today's podcast, and especially in some hot podcasts coming up, is something that I didn't expect from this podcast. And so if you are listening right now, if you're walking or running or in the car, understand that you are part of the Amy Watson healing story, because the podcast that you will hear today is not the one that I want you to hear. I kind of hope you never hear at least the second half of this one. I'm just kidding though, keep listening. Today, we bring back Crissy. And for those of you who do not know who Crissy is basically my sister by adoption. She has been a gift to me as a member of my community. And we are business partners and basically sisters by just love and bond that the Lord has put together for us. And so you'll hear her a lot if you haven't already. And that is because she brings something valuable to those of you walking with those with PTSD. And so it is my prayer that you will sit back and listen to this first section that is really delving into more of our value, which is why so many people with and without PTSD struggle with so many things that turn into attention-seeking behaviors, which we've talked about and will continue to talk about, as well as, for those of us who are PTSD patients, some side effects of PTSD. Today I'm going to share with you the story of one of my side effects, which is substance abuse. And understand this is not the podcast that I want on your phone today, but it is the podcast that is on your phone, and there's a reason for that. And as I mentioned in the story that you just heard, if you're under the sound of my voice, you are the reason I will continue to fight in real time. PTSD, Jesus and Me, you matter, worth dying for.
We started last week. I was on the show solo, and we were talking about some of the side effects of PTSD and this idea of attention-seeking behaviors. But most of all, we were talking about, and we will talk about throughout these next couple podcasts, about our understanding our value. So we're going to continue to talk about some of these side effects of post-traumatic stress disorder. But I think one of the things, Crissy, that you and I realized when on the one that you were on with me last, that this inability to understand our value and even attention-seeking behaviors is somewhat universal, don't you think?
Yeah, it really is. I feel like we all struggle with it, some in bigger ways than others, but I think it is a universal struggle.
So let's start first, though, with attention-seeking behavior kind of explains itself. But do you have anything to add besides the actual 3 words of what attention-seeking behaviors are? Besides, it really is self-descriptive, but
I think what I am most aware of is the negative attention-seeking behaviors. We all need to be seen, heard, and known. as you've talked about. So that attention-seeking behavior is not bad.
So when you say negative, what do you mean by
The
that?
negative would be if I have a cold. But rather than going and laying down and saying I have a cold, I go make sure that everyone knows. And then everyone comes back and says what? Oh my gosh, you're sick. Oh my gosh, let me help you. And then that feeds this negative. So the next time I have 105 fever, I'm on the floor throwing up, it becomes I've been rewarded for something that's negative. Now, it's not a bad thing to say I have
a cry for help, though, right?
Yes, but if you find that you are more and more telling people the bad things that are going on because you're getting rewarded by a lot of attention, then I would say that is negative attention-seeking behavior.
And I know I had a little bit of that going on, and that's not what this particular attention-seeking behavior is not what this podcast is about, but I certainly had a little bit of that, maybe a lot of bit of that going on with social media in those days, because as we're going to talk about a little bit today, I have, quite a few health problems. And so, like you said, if the thermometer said 102, if I was needy and in need of attention, it's 104. Whether I'm telling that to you or to a doctor, it doesn't matter. People who have attention-seeking behaviors are going to seek attention from anyone who will give that to them. But because I want to know what would be so we know, when we're able to call this out of a corner, hey, you need some attention because you're a human being. I want to give you that. I want to see you. I want to know you. I want to hear you. I want to love you. What's some positive ways that we can give a person that needs that attention because they're struggling with this idea of value or trauma or both? Do you have any ideas of any positive ways that we can give people that attention that they need?
What I try to do is find something that I know about them that is positive. So if I find that they've gotten maybe into that negative cycle of telling me all the shock and awe things, I fell down and I can't get up and my knee hurts and my elbow hurts and I skinned my
doubling down.
Yeah. So if I find that I'm getting a lot of seeking attention for negative things, I will change it to something positive. I may not even address that other than, oh, I'm so sorry, but then change the subject to
change the narrative.
Oh man, I love X that you did, or that's a beautiful outfit on you. I love your hair. Or just anything that might just change the narrative and refocus on something positive.
Yeah.
I love the way you said that. That really encouraged me. Or thank you for praying for me. That really made my day. So now it focuses on something that was positive that they're doing instead of focusing on, oh my gosh, you're sick.
Yeah.
See,
What can
see
I
how
get
much that,
you?
well, and it feels so good to have somebody saying that, right? Like even now I'm thinking, oh man, I wish I was sick because, having somebody be like, oh man, oh gosh, that's so hard. And you're like, yeah, it is. Yeah. It's hard not to want more of that.
Right. And you said something that reminds me of, I believe it's in Ephesians, and I will look it up and put it in the show notes. And I know I say that all the time, but I memorize scripture literally in different versions of the Bible, and so I don't always know the address, as Dad McGowan says, but I will get it. But building each other up. And one of the things that you've done for me through the years, and this has been true about several of my friends, but because you're doing life on the daily with me, is not waiting for me to need attention. Kind of on the daily taking the opportunity to go, hey, I heard you on the phone with that person. I don't know another person on the planet that could have done what you just did. But one of the things, Chris, that you also, and really, if I'm being honest with you, even more so, Mama Bootsy is always good about with me, and you in my present life, is about turning me back to the Lord. And so when I need that attention as a trauma survivor, or just as a woman who doesn't understand my value, who doesn't remember to understand my value, being turned back to the Lord helps me remember that the reason why I have attention-seeking behaviors in the first place is because I am trying to fill a God-sized hole in my heart. Give me Jesus to fill that void. And we're going to be talking about filling voids a lot today. But this idea of Genesis 1:26, where we're made in the image of God, we as human beings, not just trauma survivors, have a hard time grasping our value. Why do you think that is? Like, why can't we just like one and done? Like, my salvation to me is one and done. That's not true for everybody, but my salvation, I am firm in my salvation in that decision. But my value, I look in the mirror and don't like what I see.
I think it is one of those things that the very simple, unfortunate answer is it really is part of the fall of man. It is part of evil. It's a great tool for Satan to use, because as soon as we lack value, we're going to fill it with things that he loves, lies, and things of this world. And so if we really rest in our value, then we're centered on God, and that's everything Satan doesn't want for us. And
right.
So it's going to be one of his key components of attack. And so, yeah, we're going to struggle with it.
Because you think about, like, when we're made in the image of God, right? So I still don't quite understand what that means. I mean, I understand what it means. Like, we are made in his image, we are made perfect. And so I was, this podcast, I say this every time, but yesterday I got in my car because nothing was coming together for me, and I put on Natalie Grant and her best friend's podcast. And so I wish I could claim what I'm getting ready to say, because it was such an aha moment for me. But it was about this idea of understanding value, and that if we are made in the image of God, and we are made in the image of God, and when shame comes in, and we talked about shame last week, when shame's saying, I am the mistake, not that I made the mistake. But when I look in the mirror as a child of God, as a precious child of the Most High God, and I say, I am ugly, I am stupid, I am fill in the negative blank. Am I not effectively saying, God, you are stupid, you are ugly, you are dumb? If we're made in the image of God, when I say that about myself, am I not also saying that about the God of the universe?
Yeah, it's a good point. And his craft. So basically you're saying you're the worst artist ever.
Right, as the intelligent designer of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would you go up to an artist and say, this is crap?
Wow.
I hate what you made here. Would you go to an author and say, I hate your book? I mean, some people do.
The one-star review.
And some people do that with art. But I mean, would you go to God and say, you kind of suck at this?
Yeah. I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that our enemy, who is Satan, does not, if he can get us to not understand our value, then we will be living in ourselves and not making a difference in this world. We will be filling it up with voids, with other things. And one of the things I love, another podcast I heard was Toby Mac, one of the first interviews after the death of his son. But he all of his little memes that float around social media, #SpeakLife. And that's something that I think you and I tried to, as friends, work together with and really speak life, speak truth over ourselves. And so the whole fake it till you make it thing, right? On any given day, I'm not going to understand my value, but if I speak it and I look in the mirror and I say, I am loved by the Most High God of the universe, designed by the best artists on the planet in the history of the world, then clearly I'm going to have a better day, right? And so here's the deal, Crissy, because we are talking about attention-seeking behaviors, side effects of post-traumatic stress disorder, and some of the things that we use to fill the voids. You need to know that there probably isn't a conversation on this planet that I want to have least than the one we're getting ready to have. Because Satan is going to continue to tell me I am my mistake. But we're going to have it because I promised everybody that I wasn't going to give up and we were going to have this conversation. And so here we go. On one of the Memory Keepers podcasts that you were on, some words that you said still haunts me, and it forces me to go back to my home status of remembering that image bearer status, that I am made in the image of God. I've been working through how hard it was to hear you tell me that you were afraid that I wasn't going to survive. All I keep hearing in my head is that voice of shame saying, I am my mistake. But when you said that to us a few weeks ago, that you had planned on being friends with me just for a year, that probably confused some people because we on purpose left out a huge part of why you were afraid that you were not going to have me around for very long. I think when we hit the pause button, you went so far as to say you were terrified that you're actually going to find me dead. Even saying that, I had to swallow pretty hard because it's still hard to hear and it's hard to say. Did you think I was going to die because you walked with me through a period of my life where I abused narcotic pain medication?
Yes, that is what it was.
So I'm still having the same response now as I had on that conversation. My hands are shaking, but I'm going to say the same thing to you I said then. And except for this time, we actually are looking at each other. And I want to say, I'm sorry at first, but I'm going to say thank you. Did a little bit of research, and I don't think this is going to surprise anybody. And now I am specifically talking to trauma survivors, particularly abuse survivors. But 60% of men who report substance abuse and 81% of women who report substance abuse also report some sort of abuse. Now, I am a survivor of childhood abuse. I am a survivor of physical childhood abuse, sexual childhood abuse, and then a 12-year domestic violence marriage. These are the stats that make my conscience feel a little bit better. You know, I already mentioned that when I moved to Clearwater from St. Augustine, I literally had a bottle of cough syrup with narcotics sitting by my gear shift. This was not my first dance with pain pills. I have struggled with this from the first time that I got a feeling of well-being, like euphoria, from a pain pill. And that happened after a car accident about midway through my domestic violence marriage. It really is when I began to connect it with a good feeling, and it quieted the demons of all of the past. It also, in my brain, because my ex-husband was so concerned about that car accident after giving me more injuries by his own hand than I got in that car accident, he made it to me in about half the time that he should have. And so when I took those pain pills and I looked and I remembered the look in his eyes when he came up to the window of that car, I thought that feeling of warmth and value that I had was from that. Like, okay, we've cleared this hurdle. He realized that I'm valuable to him, and we're good now. And so when the injuries went away, I stopped taking the pain medicine, but guess what else went away? That feeling of well-being and that sense of well-being. So this pain pill struggle is not new to me, and one that I struggled with for many, many years. Particularly bad when the flashbacks were bad. Demons don't even begin to.
Well, and as I'm getting to know you, you're
Right.
in counseling, meaning you are dredging up all the demons.
Yeah.
So it was just a big open door for that to come rear its head again.
So I was trying to fill the void with pain pills. Again, over the years, things, when I'm in a good spot, and by that I mean I'm feeling fulfilled, like I'll give you a great example, just a human example. Doing this podcast makes me feel fulfilled because it makes me feel all of those things that we talked about before: seen, known, heard, loved, valued. And so, yeah, of course, during times when I felt that, this wasn't particularly a struggle for me. But during the times of when the trauma got stirred up because something else happened, and like you said, in counseling, I was dredging stuff up. I was trying absolutely to self-medicate. So you're doing life with me, and some of this now I'm going to hear for the first time. But I definitely was filling the voids with the pain medication. You know what, too, Crissy? Remember, I had valid reasons. I mean, how many cases of kidney stones did I have?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that was a tool of our enemy. Like I had, just like you said a few minutes ago, he doesn't want me to understand my value because then I can't
live a fulfilled life. And so, yeah, we would have things like kidney stones. And then I had a breast cancer scare, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, where I had to have 3 major surgeries. And so I always had reason to have pain medicine. But like I've said so many times, when you have a pain pill problem or an addiction problem, and by the way, I'm saying pain pills, but really what I mean is substance abuse. And so for those of you listening to this could be food, this could be people, this could be relationships, this could be alcohol. I'm talking about filling a void, a God-sized void, with something else, particularly if you have trauma, not understanding your value. But life continued to be hard, Crissy. But at some point, you figured out that I was self-medicating. And I'm not really going to know what you're going to say right now. And so for those listening, for those doing life with people whose post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, their self-esteem symptoms, their lack of understanding their value symptoms are coming out in an attention-seeking behavior as substance abuse. Tell us how you knew. Let's first start there.
I didn't know. I thought, and then there were a lot of reasons for this, that when you left the hospital, they put you on a handful of pills. We've talked about that. The
psych ward, you mean, when you say the hospital?
Yes.
Because we went
to the hospital.
Lots of hospitals.
When you got out of the psych ward, they handed you a handful of pills. And so it was very easy to get confused between those many, many pills and what turned out to be pain pills. And I did not know that that's what was going on.
So you're saying, like, was I doing some things that made you think that it was the medicine they put me on?
Well, I thought that, again, because I really had no clue. You would slur your speech. I couldn't wake you up. You would talk in riddles, to say the least.
Was this the time when I got, like, red Kool-Aid on rinse and repeat 24/7 and
constantly falling asleep while mid-eating, just all kinds of weird things, not being able to remember things the next day, all classic signs of a pain pill addiction. But of course I had, again, you were on a handful of pills. In my defense, I don't know if I need
I think in most people's defense,
yeah. So I had no clue, but I guess there were enough symptoms, signs. I must have said something that was, this doesn't make any sense. I do remember when you came clean and the shock and
betrayal.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part. I think for our relationship, that was the hardest part because I'm a 6 on an Enneagram.
By the way, I'm not an 8, I'm a 2. We took the test again. I'm a 2.
Because trust is everything for me. And so all of a sudden, I didn't know that I could trust anything that you were saying in reference to this. So not I could trust you on a day-to-day basis, 100%. But I did not trust that if I said, hey, you're slurring your speech, that you would say, hey, I took pain pills.
Right.
Or, hey, you slept really hard last night and can't remember what happened. Did you take pain pills? I wouldn't trust that. And so it created this downward spiral for us of, I didn't trust you. Then you felt betrayed by my distrust because you're a trustworthy person.
I got to tell you, betraying your trust was excruciating. And so I stopped taking pain pills because I hurt you. Do we see the problem in that?
There's definitely a problem, but I was kind of
We were
happy.
grateful, anything.
Yeah.
But what is the problem? I mean, I stopped taking it because I hurt your feelings, and being what I thought was a solid 8 on the Enneagram scale apparently is a 2. But I am sensitive, and I didn't want to hurt you. And so every time I thought about, and we put some things in place, like I put myself under so I had a breast cancer scare. I had to have 3 major surgeries. The first one, major. By that time, whether I had stopped taking the pain pills because I hurt you or because I was beginning to get healthy, by the time I had that my surgery, we told the doctor. Remember, didn't we?
By the third surgery.
By the third surgery?
Yes.
Yeah,
So, yes, I think that, I'm grateful that you stopped, even if it was for me at the beginning, but it did not stop our arguments.
Let's talk about. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that, because there's plenty of people listening to this doing life with not only trauma patients. So you had the normal human filling void issues and PTSD. So yeah.
So what we started with was because there was distrust between us, and because we were both coming from a place of hurt. Amy hurt because I didn't believe that she could change, even though I did believe it, but I was scared. Me hurt because I'd been betrayed. And then her thinking that I'm not letting her even change and become a different person. So we're going in this cycle of distrust, fights, and continuing down a downward spiral.
We were roommates too.
Yes, yeah. and business partners and doing life together, and it can either spiral downward, where you continue to, well, you're the one that lied, well, you're the one that doesn't believe me, well, you're the one that doesn't, and you keep either tearing each other down with you're seeing me as my past from your perspective, Amy, and then I'm seeing, well, you lied to me, so
judged.
Yeah, I'm judged, right? So you're feeling
but you were
judged,
scared, right?
And I'm scared. Yeah. So we can either stay in that place of fear and hurt and betrayal and lies and all those things, or turn the tables. And where we turn the tables is we found a common ground to start. When I really looked at Amy, and we both realized that Amy meant it. I want to change. That is don't diminish that first step.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people will say, I want to change, but they don't have any intention of it. When we got to that point, and I looked you in the eyes and said, I'm on your team. Mm-hmm. So in every argument or in every situation, we would start out with, hey man, I'm on your team. Yep. So it's okay. Did you take pain pills today? Hey, I'm on your team. Are you struggling? Do you feel like you might need some? Is this hard? Are you in withdrawals? If I could bring it down to that base level of I'm on your team, for us, that was a statement that brought that common ground and stopped the downward spiral.
Mm-hmm. And for a trauma victim, that you stayed, right? Because honestly, up until the point where I moved to Clearwater, there weren't a whole lot of people in my life that were showing me that. And so you stayed. And so, yeah, I think that and even the tone of your voice when you would say, hey, I'm on your team, because you are so black and white, it is right, it is wrong. And so for you to be able to step outside of that and step towards my healing, and as infuriated as it made you, is really, really important. Let me ask you this. What do you think that you would have done different, that you could have done differently? I know that we, like you said, we got in a lot of fights. But is there anything specific that you wish you would have done differently?
There's a lot of things I wish I had done differently. I think that I did wallow in my own hurt for a very long time. And I just couldn't get past it. And that's on me.
How'd you get past it? You're not past it.
I'm still angry. No, I think it was time, and it's part of that downward spiral, and so I was sticking to my guns of you betrayed me rather than stepping outside. Yeah, and stepping outside of myself and saying, you know what, this is hard on Amy. I'm not the only one hurting here. She's going through withdrawals. And so
the withdrawals were fun. We won't waste the people's time. But
but just, and that you were hurting in period, not just the substance abuse, but you were abusing a substance for a reason. Life was hard. You were hurting. And I wasn't helping the situation by being judgmental, and so yeah.
And we talk about community a lot on this podcast, and I didn't have that as much because it's just I was ashamed, and I didn't have the community a lot, and so you and I were doing life our worlds were very small, and we needed to be really small. But I don't know, because one thing that I did continue to do, and as one of the C's on this podcast, is I stayed in counseling. And even in the pain pill struggle, I felt safe and honest in that office. And so when I would screw up, when I would fall off the wagon, or when I would need to take the pain pills for a legitimate reason, we had a plan. I would go into Dr. Pettit's office and say, I have this major surgery coming up. My plan is to give Crissy the bottle of pain pills. I don't know. I've been racking my brain over the last several days trying to figure out, when did it flip for me? When did I refrain from substance abuse because I understand that I am a precious daughter of the Most High God? And I was thinking about where I get that phrase from, and it gives me chills just even thinking about it. But it was that time I had an opportunity to speak at Amy and Chuck's church, and we're talking like 8 or 9 years ago, or maybe not quite that long. But anyway, Chuck asked me by way of introduction, "Tell us who you are." And instead of saying, "My name is Amy Watson, I have a master's degree in business administration," all the things I would have done before, I would have explained myself by what I do and what I have and where I've been. Out of nowhere, when he said, "Tell us who you are," I said, "My name is Amy Watson, and I am the precious daughter of the Most High King." And that shocked even me. And I don't know if that is when I began understanding, because I don't have the understanding value, none of us do. But I did want to get better. I didn't want to take the pain pills. I wanted to step into this identity with Christ. And so when Chuck asked me that at that church that day, and we're going to end the podcast with this, it reminded me of a story. And we're back at that psych ward. And it was that Saturday that all of you guys were there. And everybody was saying bye to me. And Cheryl was there, and Cheryl gave me a hug, and I said, "Thank you for coming." And she said, "You're worth fighting for. That's why I'm here." And those words to this day still come back to me. You're worth fighting for.
You are worth fighting for. I don't know that anyone had ever said those words to me. Certainly some people had stood up and fought for me, but I'm not sure that anyone ever said those words to me. Doesn't mean that people didn't think it, because clearly somebody got me from being padlocked in a room at 7 years old until today. But Cheryl's words, "You're worth fighting for," just highlights this need for community. It highlights the need for the star of our story. And so one of the things that I've really been thinking about on this podcast is, how can I help you on the other side of the mic on both of these things, or all of the C's actually: counseling, church, community. And so we are doing some things on our social media platforms, in particular my Facebook webpage, Amy Watson, author. We are building a community there. And even as early as today, I am beginning to build people who are on my Facebook page in geographics, because we are in the middle of a pandemic. And if our only community interaction is from people who love us and who we can build relationship with, who we can build community with, then I want to help you do that. But because you are listening in 12 countries and over 400 cities, clearly, the best way to do that is to use technology. And so consider following Amy Watson Author on Facebook as we attempt to build a community there. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter is also Amy Watson Author. Instagram is Author Amy Watson. But these are some ways that we can build community in these days, especially for those of you under the sound of my voice thinking, "I don't have energy to take a shower. How am I going to get community?" The other thing that I want to mention is, just a few podcasts from now, my counselor will be on explaining to you how we got from padlocked in a room at 7 years old, a lifetime of abuse, a nervous breakdown. How did we get from there to me fighting battles with you behind a mic? How did we get there? That's the other C, counseling. But it has really been heavy on my heart that I have not really told you how you can know the star of my story, who is Jesus. And I know that there are many of you out there who may be skeptical and may not believe in the faith that heals, the faith that holds me up, the faith that opened my heart, the Jesus of that truth that we're worth fighting for. I know you're skeptical. If in seeking something greater than you, you are finding comfort, then I am so happy for you. But I do want you to know and get to know how to know the star of my story. That is not something for a podcast. I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the show notes, sermons of people that I trust, as well as contact information. If you reach out to me directly, I would love to introduce you to the star of my story. Because the fact of the matter is that he gave his life for mine. And while those words from Cheryl are so powerful, I am worth fighting for. But more than that, you and I were worth dying for. And Jesus did that for us on the cross. And because he did that, not only are we forgiven of our sins, but we have direct access to this healing. So as you go through these next 14 days, whether you believe in my star or my story or not, I want you to know that you're worth fighting for. And whether you believe it or not, somebody died so that you could have life and that you can have it more abundantly. Because more than you can ever grasp, you are so worth dying for. And so we are going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to talk. We're going to continue to heal. I hope you will hang around as we continue in this real-time healing where the star of my story is just showing me things that I never thought I would see. And until then, I want you to live loved. I want you to live chosen. I want you to live courageous. More than anything, I want you to remember, you are seen, you are known, you are heard, you are loved, and most of all, you are valued. You are a precious child of the Most High God. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your time with me today. I am so honored, always so honored when you have chosen to do that. We will continue to publish these podcasts every other Wednesday. The best way for you to just automatically have that downloaded to your device is to hit that subscribe button. If you're so inclined to leave us a rating as well as a review, that will help us as we continue to try to get the podcast out there to those that need it. So I would be honored if you would also consider following me on social media. I am on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Instagram is author Amy Watson is my handle, and then Facebook and Twitter are Amy Watson Author. You can also reach me on my website, amywatsonauthor.com.